Ivy League versus Cal State stimulant abuse. If community is present on CSU campuses, then academic stressors wouldn't lead to the same rate of non-medical misuse (NMM) of stimulants in comparison to the Ivy League campuses. What is stimulant abuse? Stimulant abuse disorder is a type of substance use disorder where the use of stimulants caused clinically significant impairment or distress. Common stimulants not or excuse me, common stimulants include but not limited to Ritalin, Dexterin, Adderall, and Concerta. Non-medical misuse is people who obtain and use stimulants without a prescription.
Common academic stressors. Academic stressors are demands and pressures from their environment that a lot of students experience, which include workload, time management, commuting, competition between peers, and financial concerns. All these factors play a role in the students' stress factors. There are 23 Cal State University campuses located throughout California, and this is the community we are focusing in our study, and we'll be comparing the differences between the community and overall culture between the Ivy League schools and Cal State schools. 8 elite colleges located in Northeast region of the US, and these are the schools that we will be comparing against.
How does lack of community lead to stimulant abuse? Lack of a healthy support system. With no community support, often students struggle and stimulants are used to manage stress. This can also be a coping mechanism. Without community, stimulants are used to cope with pain, stressors that normally a good sense of community would alleviate them from doing so. There's also unhealthy connections. With no healthy communities, users seek company of others who use stimulants. Let's say people who also use drugs. So it creates not a community, but just more of an unhealthy environment. National data on stimulant usage. According to the University of Michigan, annual prevalence of Adderall use without medical supervision was higher for college students, 11.1%, than for non-college respondents, 8.1% in 2018. Reasons for stimulant abuse in higher education. Stimulant abuse in higher education primarily happens with non-medical misusers. This is a survey of 274 students across 4 universities. As you can see on the graph, 81% of misusers use stimulants for studying, 50% use them to stay awake, 40% for alertness, 54% for academics, and only 13% use it to get high.
Now, on this slide here, we're talking about the Ivy League universities and some of the living situations. So 90% of students do live on campus. 10% does not live on campus. Some of the academic stressors are about 40% students are employed while attending Ivy Leagues. They do have small class sizes, exclusive social circles that limit students from connecting from one another. And then they also do about like 49 hours of study time. Students that attend Ivy League schools are higher at risk of levels of anxiety and depression. So now on this slide, we're going to talk about the CSU students and their living situation. There's about less than 15% of them do live on campus because they're more of a commuter student. So about 90 to 98 students live off campus. Some of their academic stressors are their commuters. And then those class sizes are larger. Um, we do have limited faculty interactions, and students, their study time spent studying about 20 to 35 hours of studying. And most of the students here do work, so about 64 college students work.
So now focusing on stimulant usage in Ivy League universities, the universities that we're going to compare to the CSUs. Out of a sample survey done out of 616 sophomores, juniors, and seniors who weren't diagnosed with ADHD, were surveyed on an anonymous survey about stimulant usage. Um, the reporting Ivy League students who misused stimulants were in total 111. However, their usages of it uh, all had very similar trends. So there were 77 of them used it to write an essay, and 73 uh, also used it to study on an exam. No, 30 were used to study on an exam. 30 were used to take an exam, 73 were used to take an exam, but 27 of them taking it 8 or more times. So overall, this data. So how does community lead to college students towards non-medical misuse of stimulants? So academic stressors lead to college students to abuse stimulants in order to maintain their academic standing. So individualism and competition are big factors that contribute to this. So students are individualized and expected to be independent in their knowledge and a part of an organic collective. So essentially, they're all individual parts, independent parts that work with each other, however, are expected to be self-reliant. And this leads to a lack of student solidarity and thus lack of community with leads to competition in academics as well as a lack of norms and values among students. So then non-medical misuse of stimulants are used to compete as a competitive advantage for academics and as well as a lack of social norms that prevent students from using it. So there's no one to prevent students from using it, and there is a push to compete to be individual. And this overall sense of enemy leads to the usage of stimulants in order to for academic reasons. So financial related stress is also another factor for college students towards non-medical misuse of stimulants. Finances can add more pressure and demands towards a student schedule, and this leads to less time to socialize and integrate with the college community, to form solidarity and actually build a community and have norms and values. So this leads to also pushing for the usage of stimulants. And then also dorming, a lack of norms and values that are usually enforced by family. These students move away and now are in a completely new environment that have no norms and no values provided by the college community to specifically limit the usage of stimulants. So this leads to a whole new slew of problems. So all these three factors, these academic stressors, lead to college students basically using stimulants because of pressures on them, and also there's nothing restricting them. So yeah.
Research methodology. So for our research methods, we used the survey research. We decided to use a questionnaire, a document containing questions and other types of items designed to solicit information appropriate for analysis. We use closed-ended questions, survey questions, in which the respondent is asked to select an answer from the list provided by the researcher, and the last question being a Likert scale question, where we ask the students to give us an answer based on a scale between 1 through 10. And the main data we're collecting are from environmental factors, academic stressors, total number of participants, non-medical misuse stimulant students, and non-using stimulant students. The students' results about how they non-medical misuse stimulants.
This is the anonymous research survey that we submitted to the Strategic Communications and Brand Marketing Department at the CSUs. They were able to print out flyers with the survey barcode. Each of these questions are asked as a yes or no format, so we have a clear distinction of drug abuse. Once reviewing back all the surveys where the students answered, we separated them by two categories of CSUs and Ivy Leagues, then calculated the stimulus usage. We did take into consideration the students possibly affected by peers while living on campus and off campus. Depending on the community will depend on the stimulated abuse. The expected findings from the survey, we found from the study it is important because it shows the importance of community in CSUs because of the lower rates of stress-related stimulus abuse in comparison to Ivy Leagues. So, what can we do for students' well-being and supports that they offer for students? Well, we can go towards counseling and psychological service or CAPS and care centers. Why would you think this is important? It's important because students can begin to develop cognitive function issues from the abuse. Universities, aside, should also provide education about stimulative abuse awareness for incoming freshmen, especially since the transition from high school to college doesn't really bring awareness or knowledge towards those specific topics. Universities should also provide more accessible stress relief options such as medications, debriefing rooms, etc. These are the sources we use to get information of both CSUs and IVs along with the national data.